He didn't let me know he wasn't coming, so we'll see him.
Yeah. Okay, Diane, that should be plenty enough.
All right. Okay, well, formal good afternoon, everybody. So I guess when I look at this agenda, I think, well, sometimes one looks at an agenda and thinks, oh, God, but this is actually full of really good updates. We've got at least 6 forward-looking, very positive updates that I can see, plus some other items. But I think what that means is we better be careful with our time, because one of the biggest updates is near the end when Grant and Mike have the service development update. So if you look at the agenda, we've got minutes to do. Mike's got a good financials report to give and capital improvement projects to update us on. Some really interesting marketing and outreach developments. Hey, Mike, some things where one thing leads to the next, to the next, to the next. And maybe I'll chime in if Mike lets me. Then we got the ClearPoint data system up and running, and Mike can give us a good update on that. The COVID update. Hello. What happened there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, put the agenda up.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if Josh is going to join us, but
Later, he said.
Yeah, okay. We didn't have any old business, and I asked, nobody suggested any. I'm going to give you, under new business, a brief, but I hope interesting update on the sustainability issues, because their public input phase is now up and running, their campaign. And Keith and I both can chime in there. We both have done the survey and participated to a degree as we move forward. But some interesting thoughts about the airport and opportunities came up. I'll give you an even briefer update on the Lexington Road project, because that public input phase has now ended. Angela will give us an update on the Fly AHN situation, because that situation that was sent out in the last month has now been addressed. So it's really only an FYI update. There's no action that's needed. Angela will give us an update on that. And then right at the end, we've got the 3 standing committees, if there are any updates there. But Mike certainly does have his updates on his meetings about his service development and meeting with airlines. So, we've got a lot to get through, but I see a lot very positive, forward-looking, good things in it. So I'm pleased to be able to, work along with you on that. So if you like, first thing is if we can look at the minutes. And hey, Grant, we see you. Good to see you.
Hello, how are y'all?
Yeah, hi, Grant.
Is he on? Hi, fine. How are you doing? So we're on the minutes. I only found, I'd want to say thank you to Angela for writing them up so nicely and having it all so organized. There are only, I think, 3 little grammatical corrections that I can give Angela, unless you want me to go through them. They're just tiny, a word change here or there, like have to has. With your agreement, I'll just give those to her after the meeting. Is that okay, in the interests of time? Did anybody else see anything in the minutes that you want to add or have corrected? In terms of content, they look great to me. Everything looked fine. Well done. Anything? All right, well, hearing none, I have a motion to approve the minutes with minor grammatical corrections only.
So moved.
Okay. Second? Liz? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. I will get those tiny corrections. I'll send the document to Angela right after the meeting. So, all right, task 1 out of the way. Thank you. So, Mike, we've got a whole series of nice updates from you, and
Yes.
we look forward to those.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if you want, since there's so many of them, Mike, do you want to take questions or comments after each one rather than all at the end of the whole group?
Yeah, we'll do each one. That'd be fine.
Okay,
My mind ain't what it used to be.
right.
I might forget what I said early on, so. All right, well,
Okay.
this is good. All right, so year to date, we're 75% of the year completed. This is the financial report for March 2021. Revenues, sales, let's see, we're talking March. So we didn't have a whole lot of, I mean, we had charters, but not like we did, prior to March with the basketball season. But we still have some charters going on, gymnastics, some softball, things like that. So our sales were still good, though. Our sales of fuel av gas, 38,000, Jet A, 129. Still both, below our monthly projection, but still we're not quite, at the level we would have been, of course, prior to COVID. The leases still on target there. And again, just a reminder, and I'll remind you every few months, the difference on that is that when I did the annual budget back then, I had anticipated Hanson's lease, to be a part of this. It wasn't. Of course, it is now, starting July, I think, well, not July, starting last month, rather, I think. The mayor signed that lease, so we're well on our way. And next year, we had included it for next year's budget as well. Concessions, airport fees, still doing very well, and then credit card charges. So the actual for the month, 226,375. Still looking good in the actual on year to date as well. Let me scroll on down to our expenses, and let me get my notes here for that. So we had cost of goods. Let me go back up here too, so we can kind of compare that. So cost of goods for avgas was 32,000. We had avgas at 38. We did buy a load. It wasn't right at the end of the month, but it was enough to carry some forward, into April. So that was a part of the difference there. Jet A, 129, like I say, in sales. We had 80,000 in expenses, but we also bought a load as well closer to the end of the month that would carry into April. Airport administration, that's 22,008. Airport services, 38. Let me scroll on down here. The big number, as you can see, is other general administration. What that was is we have, and I think I sent an email to all of you, but we had about 2,940 employee on paid leave right now due to a personnel matter. So that encumbered some expenses under other general administration, and then sales tax, of course. So moving on down, still looking fairly well for the month, almost 19,000, and then for the year, 337,000. Let's see. Our gallons sold for avgas for that month was 8,000, and for jet it was 32,000. And you can see it slowly increasing. February was great, like I say, because we had a lot of basketball still going on, and then operations slowly climbing again. Looking at it, looks like October. Let's see, it beat the November, December, January, February. So we're 3,358 there. Let's look at operations here. You can see our budget here. So you can see how we stand for the year with our budget. We are climbing. I really feel like we're gonna reach our goal for this year. We have 3 more months to go, and we're very close. So that's good. Here we have see our avgas. jump back up here to our jet. Excuse me, I got a mouse I'm dealing with here. So, okay, so we got Jet A sales. You can see we're climbing. Of course, we're getting close to the budgeted amount, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. We still got 3 more months to go on that. Avgas, coming down to Avgas here. You can see we're a little way off on Avgas, but hopefully next year will be a different story.
Mm.
And let's see. Any questions on the financials?
Yeah,
Can you
Mike,
go
just
back to that?
go ahead, Diane.
Mike, that first screen you showed, can you scroll up just a couple of where you had right there? Includes IFR, VFR, local and military.
Yeah, that's the operations. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the instrument flight rules and visual flight rules. So the IFR is the aircraft, flying in the system, call the system.
Yeah.
VFR is flying, not so much in the system. Sometimes they'll ask for flight following. But that's really, VFR is a good day, a pretty day. And then
Yeah.
local and military. So the operations, those numbers include all of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Mike, just a couple of questions for you. I'll give you both questions and then you just reply back. One is, did you say that the Hanson lease revenue is now reflected in revenues or will be at the start of the new year? And then just the other one is, in general, financial wise, how's April looking so far?
Yeah, well, first Hanson, that lease was approved this month, pretty much. So it'll be this month that we'll see that money coming in April.
Okay.
So we should see it this month. And as far as the other, April's looking very good, actually. We've had a lot of good sales. Corporate seems to be flying a good bit more. I mean, we seem to have our ramp full most days, with corporate jets out there. And we still have a few charters coming in. I don't know who they are. I don't know what teams they are, but we still have a few coming in. The board's not as full as it had been in the past, but this time of year we don't see a whole lot. But so that's good to know as well. But yeah, I think April's going to turn out to be a good month. I'm really excited to see how it'll go.
Okay.
Not
Yep.
lackluster.
Any other questions?
No, that's good news, Mike. I think
Yeah,
that's good news.
another good month. And we're heading in the right direction. So I'm glad to report on those.
Yeah. Hey,
Those,
Josh.
Hey, Josh.
See Josh. See his face.
As far as our
Good to be here, y'all. Hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah, doing good, doing good. As far as our capital improvement project, we've started April 12th was the notice to proceed for the Schedule A and Schedule C, which is the taxiway Alpha project, Alpha 1 through 3, and then also our localizer. So right now, these first few weeks, they set up shop. They brought in their construction trailer. Our in-house inspector has set up his little office as well. They're doing some preliminary things out there right now, and they'll start on the actual project as far as moving dirt and things like that within the next week or two. Am I correct on that, Jacob? Unless things have changed, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what the schedule shows that they have submitted to us.
Yeah, and we have our meeting Thursday. We have a weekly meeting, so we'll have a meeting Thursday. And what I'm going to do, and what I had done in the past when we have major projects like this, I usually give a weekly update to the manager's office, Josh and Blaine, and I'll include Delta and I'll include UGA and all the folks that really seem to be concerned about the project, going into a football season. But this is supposed to be done by then. This portion of it is, and but you never know about weather and things like that. But I'll also include all of you as well, so you can keep up with the project. So that it's just not a monthly thing, because there's a lot that happens, weekly, day by day, with these type projects. So I'll keep everybody in the loop. And that I usually send it out. I think it's Thursdays usually when I send it out after our meeting, our construction meeting. So I'll do that, and just be aware.
Okay.
Got to
Thank
become a help.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
Still waiting on some grant money from the state, or the FAA rather, for Schedule B, but we we were hoping that it was going to be 1st of April that we hear something. GDOT says it might be 1st of May. We hear something, but regardless, we feel good that we're going to get the money. We just don't know when. Astra, they put in, we've put a bid in, of course, won the bid on that one as well. They extended their prices, so the prices are solid and still good, for a couple more months. So that's a big thing. So at least we've got that out of the way. So just waiting on the money to come our way. And I guess that's it on capital improvement. Any questions on that?
Have you heard from any citizens?
For about what?
I don't know. Disruption, changes,
Oh, no, I have not. No. Thank goodness.
Good.
Yeah. Is there anything, did you want to add, Jacob, or you're good?
No, I think that covers everything. We're just trying to keep
Okay.
everything forward and wait on that funding for that next schedule.
Yeah. Jacob and Chris are doing a good job too in communicating with Astra, and they're working hard, so I appreciate them as well. Marketing and outreach activities. We had, I don't know when they came, if it was after our last meeting or before, but I had 2 commissioners come, Myers and Hool.
Mike,
Yes, go ahead.
well, I met with Carol on the 25th of March, and then it must
Okay.
have been just like the first week of April when they both came.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you and I met them. It was like the first week in April.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a good meeting. It was really, really good. I asked Diane to be there too, and we met in the conference room, chatted for, I don't know, maybe an hour, I guess, and
Mhm.
then answered a lot of their questions, educated them, and that was good. I took them. Diane had to leave then, so I took them out in the truck, gave them a good tour of the airport, um, and they were impressed. Showed them the firehouse, the fire station, and the projects that we have coming up, and showed them a lot of the navigational equipment that we have. A lot of things that might be in our CIP that they might see later, come up later, projects and things like that. So at least they kind of have an idea, of what we're talking about if it comes across their desk. So I felt good about it. How about you, Diane?
Yeah, I also do want to point out, we didn't go courting them. Carol Myers asked me if I would talk with her. I don't know why, but she did. She came after me 3 times. So eventually I did say, well, sure, I'll talk with you, about airport and Lexington Road things. And so I asked Mike if it would be reasonable to meet with her in the conference room where we'd have the big map and everything. And that turned out to be a 2-hour meeting that was really worth it. And then following that, she asked Jesse Hool to join her when they both met with Mike. But I think it really was a good opportunity to have them. They focused on that big image in the conference room in great detail because they admitted they didn't have an idea of where the quarry was relative to the runways and everything. And so it turned into a sort of an opportunity. I think Mike and I agreed to say, there were lots of interesting directions that come out of the questions they asked that we can use as ingredients to actually, build on information to educate the public as well as commissioners or other officials about the airport. So yeah, it was a good opportunity, but we didn't court them. The impetus for the meetings came from Carol Myers, which is good to know. So
I would
Any
just say
questions?
thanks y'all for hosting them. And this is something that, they visited a number of our departments as they've joined, as commissioners, and it's always helpful for commissioners and residents and staff to learn what everybody does. And I just appreciate you spending the time. And I know the meeting went well, and they learned a lot, and we greatly appreciate that.
Thank
Well,
you,
she
Josh.
wanted to meet with me and Jittery Joe's, and I said no.
Mhm.
I hate Jittery Joe's. And I think,
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm a fan of Jittery Joe's,
well,
just to put the record out there.
for meetings, I mean, it was a much better thing to meet in the conference room. And Carol actually even took pictures of the big image. They really sort of fed off that. It's a very valuable image to have in the conference room, that for other visitors. So
Yeah, you all haven't seen this new map. We've got a new map in here since we met last in this room. But it's a little bigger. It's spread out more. Jacob provided it for us, and so it's a nice map. We need to kind of put a plexiglass on it, flatten it out a little bit. But yeah, when we're all able to get together again, you'll see it. It's a good map. Well, thank you, Josh. Thank you, Diane. D, ClearPoint data system, nothing to report other than we continue to maintain it. It seems to be pretty easy to maintain. Angela's maintaining it for us. So, we're moving forward with that. Any questions on ClearPoint? And then as far as COVID-19 update, we continue to wear our masks. We still are staying cautious. We're keeping our distance. Most all of us, as far as employees, have gotten our second shot, so we're good. We're good to go there. As far as full time, I'm not sure about the part timers, but the part timers, UGA students, most of them have as well. But as far as full time. Any questions?
Well, Mike, I know Keith and I had asked you about when we might again meet in person, but I guess we've come to understand, that that's not possible until, you and the administration are comfortable, because they have to be public meetings. And so in order to invite, visitors or members of the public, it's another consideration. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to wait to hear, when we're able, from the manager's office. And I know they're working with other entities, to make sure that everybody's safe before, it's opened up. So, well, whenever they find out, I'm sure I don't mean to be talking for Josh, but whenever they find out, I know they'll let us know.
Yeah, and we can work on getting back to you, before your next meeting. I think in general, our advice would be, this is a decision for y'all, and what you think is best. And the only problem is you got to either decide to go full board in person or virtual. We can't support a hybrid approach. We wouldn't recommend that. It's just with video, it's challenging. And so I think if y'all think you can do it safely in person, with proper protocols, and based on typically the number of residents that typically show up, kind of have the right location, then I think you're fine. But we can talk more offline about when that would be. But I think this summer, obviously, as long as y'all are all on the same page, it would probably make sense to start doing in June. But let us get back to you about specifics, and we can work with y'all.
Okay.
That sounds good. And also, we're lucky enough to have one of that big room in a commercial terminal that we can all spread out, if need be. So yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Any closing comments or questions for Mike and all his good reports? Okay. In the past meetings, we haven't actually formally approved all of these. Do you want to, or do you want to leave it informal? He's looking at me blank, like, I'm just checking on the minutes, because in some groups one does, in others we don't.
Yeah. I don't think we need to, but what do you think?
No,
Yeah,
I think we can do it.
it would seem that we could just keep informal because
Yeah.
we do have approval of the minutes, the next meeting and everything, so.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think all of those are very good, positive reports, Mike. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. So skipping old business, since there wasn't any of substance, we can move on to the new business, the sustainability updates. Mike, you said that you had those visuals.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me pull it up here.
The public input phase of the campaign now for the 100% clean and renewable energy campaign is underway. And having seen the notices for that, I signed up and actually did the survey. So did Keys. And then I did participated in the webinar on the 19th. And I thought it was just interesting enough that I just wanted to share a couple of things with you from the presentation. Mike Wharton was actually not there. Andrew Saunders ran the webinar. And most of the slides were sort of just supporting background information to these, but I just picked 5 to share with you because what came out of it was some interesting thoughts about, the implications for the airport, all of which are positive. So you know that in 2019, the Mayor and Commission unanimously approved the resolution to aim for 100% clean and renewable energy by 2035, and then also the broader goal for the whole community by 2050. So this is just one of the opening slides about the energy goals. And the first one is important because it relates to government properties, and or facilities and installations, which would include the airport. So I'll just clip through these. The South Face and Greenlink, these logos on the bottom next to the ACC one, there are a lot of different entities and NGOs and consulting groups involved in the undertaking. So that's what some of those logos are. If you go to number 2, Mike, please.
Okay.
And stop me if you've got a comment or question. I'm just going to clip through these. So the community-wide one then gets into residences and also other buildings in the community. So, the 100% is an interesting figure because obviously it's the ultimate ideal is to go 100% literally. And that became an interesting issue for discussion. Okay, Mike.
All righty. Get up here.
This was interesting, this one, because actually some people in the webinar in the audience challenged the presenter as to why nuclear power was not included in the, quote, clean sources. And their response to that, because it was Andrew Saunders and then some of the consultants also doing the presenting, the response there was, well, down the road when technology advances to a point where it can be included, it would be, but right now they made the decision that there's too much risk and fallout from nuclear power for it to be one of the so-called clean sources. So there was a listing of those. So you can see much of the webinar was just very basic stuff to educate people who signed up for it, with the so-called dirty ones on the right and the ones that are more desirable or so-called clean on the left. All right, Mike, the next one. This one is interesting because it doesn't actually include residences. You'll notice the breakdown in the pie chart with transportation, even though, they've got fuel efficient or, electric buses and things now. Transportation and vehicles is a big one with the other 2 breakdowns, but it doesn't include residences. I'll ask Keith to comment on the survey after I finish these because we both did the survey and there were some interesting things about it. All right, and then the last one is the most interesting slide I wanted to share with you because this was really the crux of the matter in the webinar, and that is that in the community that we live in ACC, if there was just sort of business as usual and no concerted effort to reduce emissions and to develop clean energy sources, the forecast in the pie chart on the left is really what they anticipate it's going to look like. So you're still going to have 77% with energy coming from coal, gas, and nuclear sources, and very little, only 2% from renewables, and then solar at 21%. And a lot of the interesting stuff they talked about was some of the solar installations and initiatives already underway in the county. The pie chart on the right, as you look at it, I think is even more interesting, because they made the point that if everything goes according to plan, with the maximum effort and everything desirable is achieved, this they anticipate will be the breakdown. So only 1% all other renewables, 20% solar, 40% actually energy efficient, and then 39% still under coal, gas, and nuclear. And so I did ask Andrew about that. I said, well, no, it wasn't Andrew, it was one of the others. I said, so that really means, you know, that 61% is really the goal, that 100% is a bit of a misnomer, because they made the point they cannot do anything about that 39%, because they have no control over, you know, aspects of regulatory agencies, the production facilities for energy, etc. So even with everything, if it succeeds in this plan, there's still going to be a big chunk of energy produced by the so-called, you know, dirty sources, which is kind of interesting. And I guess therefore it means that the 100% is a real ideal goal. So those 5 slides I thought you might find interesting. If you've got any questions about them before we take them off.
Oops, I can put it back on there.
Oh, hey, Robert, you made it out of your staff meeting. Good to see you, Robert. I did ask Andrew Saunders, since he was really sort of coordinating the webinar, you know, of the goals as stated in the whole campaign, you know, what does he see the implications to be for the airport in terms of, you know, projects already underway, what the potential is, you know, and opportunities. And he said, and Mike, I'm sure now this is new to you, you know, but I just think it's interesting, you know, he said that he sees some very good opportunities on the airport property. And he mentioned, you know, things like the possibilities for solar installations, the fuel efficient vehicles you've already talked about, that fuel dispensing system that you talked about, the efficient one.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some other things that he mentioned in the FAA glare study.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I don't know if that had been done already or if it was on the cards to be done.
Well, the glare study is not so much for the airport itself. It's for if you decide you want to have a location, you would
Yeah.
actually put in the lat long for that location right there. And the
Yeah.
glare study would be for that specific place right there.
Yeah.
We did one. There's some solar that somebody's looking at around the airport, and Andrew did a glare study on that. It doesn't take very long.
Yeah.
So he did that. So yeah, you know, we have talked about it in the past. It's been, you know, a year, and even recently we have talked about it too.
Yeah. I think that's the one he was mentioning, that it's off the airport property, but the glare study was done.
Yeah, that was important. We need to get that done for sure. But yeah, and it came out that it was okay.
Yeah. And then, you know, he mentioned what he called low use areas on the airport acreage, quote unquote. And he saw that there were some very interesting opportunities, potential opportunities on the airport property, you know, for tree planting, for stewardship and sustainability in various forms. And I said, well, I find that very interesting and encouraging, because one of the things I did for my own learning about the airport was I asked Aaron Hall in planning to get me the exact acreages of the airport property, which he did. Total acreage, 484 acres, 484.27 acres. It's a big chunk of property. And then I asked him for the impervious acreage of that, because obviously that's one of the things they always look at, is the impervious acreage. And it's actually only 78.17, which is only 16.14% of the total acreage, which I thought it would be much more than that, but that's small, you know, that's runways, parking lots, driveways, etc., which means that the balance, 410.1 acres or 83.84%, is so-called green space. And yeah, we know that some of that is on the edges of runways and the protection zones and things, but it's a huge acreage which can be seen as an asset for sustainability and for stewardship and for, the airport being seen as a sort of outdoors asset in the county. And so I thought that was just interesting that he also highlighted that, because the idea of stewardship means one can look at that huge acreage and say, well, there's a lot of potential there, like the parks, the trail, and even just being outdoors. If you think about Atlanta Airport, how much of an outdoorsy feel do you get when you stand there?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
don't.
it's doable, and but the thing is, you just have to be very careful and plan it carefully, because
Yeah.
one thing we don't want to attract is wildlife, because
True.
of the airplanes. So when you do plan it, and it's plannable. I mean, you can do it, but you just got to plan it to make sure that that you don't attract them. And
Yeah.
then also the obstruction, planting trees, as long as they don't grow, later on somewhere down the road where, some other airport manager will have to cut them down, find some money to do that. So, but when you do it, you just got to plan for it, plan it accordingly.
And then the little micro park that you've heard Mike and me talk about, is 3.67 acres. So it's a tiny little patch, but there's no patch too small if you're looking at stewardship and these sorts of things. And then that parcel A, which is also very interesting, the site for the, the original site for the future terminal is 39.23 acres, and that is heavily wooded and a desirable patch. So you'd lose that forest coverage if that were developed. But I just think that the acreages themselves are very interesting, because it underscored what a huge green space, and therefore green space asset, the airport is, in addition to its aviation related functions. So anyway, that's just a little update. Keith, you did the survey as I did, and I remember we talked. Do you want to comment a bit on what the survey seemed to focus on?
Yeah, just real briefly, the focus of the survey, and it makes sense based on what you're saying. And Diane, the focus of the survey was not general sustainability or all aspects. It didn't really get into water, sustainability, ecology, pollution, stewardship of nature, those kind of things. It really was focusing on energy options for the community. There was a lot of questions trying to assess what us citizens felt that we would be interested in doing, what was the extent, that we would be interested in doing or sacrificing for more sustainable energy options. I know it talks some about solar. I think one of the questions that came up was about community solar. I'm not sure if it was in the survey or not, but I know, just out of curiosity, I've seen there's a community solar farm, a Georgia Power community solar farm up near Comer. It's on Highway 172 going to Lake Hartwell or Bowman or whatever. And the way that works, as I understand now, is if you can sign up with Georgia Power to help support that, but you're not getting any breaks on your bills. The money that you pay is really more going to help Georgia Power make that option more feasible and support the future of that, for now anyway. But but there were a lot of questions, and it was, again, trying to get citizens our input and a take on what we would be interested in as far as energy options, and potentially how much we may be willing to sacrifice and pay and things like that. So it also kind of had some questions that asked for what our awareness of energy options, alternate energy, clean energy, and those kind of things, and what did we define as clean energy or not. I remember specifically one of the questions, and it was in one of the slides we were looking at earlier, is that natural gas is not considered a clean energy. On the slides that we showed earlier, I remember putting down on the survey, I thought it was a clean energy, but
So did I.
yeah, that's some of what just a little ballpark. It's been about 3 weeks since I took the survey, so I don't remember a lot more details, but.
Well, I thought it was interesting because actually, if you read all the stuff about the campaign, there's a big emphasis on what they call the transformative element, where disadvantaged members of the community and people who can't afford, to improve their energy, provision, etc., how they can be helped. And so I heard, in that webinar, and also there were lots of questions about, how's everybody going to pay for all this? Who's going to pay for it? Big questions. But I suppose it's just interesting. I mean, I liked what Andrew Saunders said and what you've said yourself, Mike, about, the implications for the airport. But then, it's obviously very early days in the campaign, because the public input phase, I realized, is because they want input on what the plan should look like. They haven't got a plan yet. They want input on what the plan should look like, how it should be, developed, and how it should be paid for too. So feel free to take the survey, any of you, or, see how you feel about it. Questions, comments, anybody? Smiles from Robert. Is that a comment or just a smile, Robert? Okay. Well,
just a smile.
Okay. All right. Let me move on to the Lexington Road thing, and that's just going to be really brief because there's not much to say. That public input phase is now over. It ended on the 18th of April, and I actually asked Derek Doster and Keith Sanders if they have an idea of how many people participated. They were aiming for 500. And so they haven't got back to me. I'll let you know if they do. I'll be shocked if they get 500 people to have responded, but that's also typical with surveys and public input. Keith, you, I know, participated in surveys online, and also several of the input sessions you did, Mike. I don't know if any of the rest of you did, if you've got any comments, if you looked at the survey. We or they are also hungry for feedback on the material that was posted online. If you looked at it, did you find it disjointed? Was it easy to use? Was there too much information, or what? I don't want to predispose you by giving you my ideas on all of it. There was a lot of information online. It required people to be really sort of hardworking and focused to get through it all. Keith, what do you think?
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of clunky, but I remember I just worked through it myself, and I think I got all the pieces answered. And then the on-site, I joined one of the on-site input sessions. Very few people attended. I think it was the second one at the airport, but I had a little bit of time with Derek Doster, kind of speaking to him some about it and all that, which was good. So.
Mike, you were at a couple of events, and we saw, 6 people?
Yeah, the
6 or
first
8?
one at the airport, there was probably 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
That came
Did
through.
the rest of you do the survey? Did you have a look at it, even if you might not have spent much time on it? Well, I think when I spoke to Derek about it, I was me being the worrier, said to him, well, I don't know, how few or how many people participated. And he said, well, we've done the best we can. I mean, they took the challenge. They have complied with the mandate to obtain public input. It's kind of take the horse to water. You can't force people to, but they really did do a very good job of blanketing and advertising and so on. The only thing I can tell you about what comes next on the user groups is that they've told us, once they have all the data collated, then we're supposed to make sense of the data to come up with a prioritized recommendation to give the mayor and commission. And I'm presuming that they will do, basic analysis on it, frequency counts, means, medians, averages, modes, etc., before they give it to us. And then the open-ended questions, I mean, I've talked with them about that those can be analyzed as well, rather than just eyeballing them. In the past, apparently, some sets of data, that's what's happened. But I don't know, I haven't heard yet, but we'll be finding out in the next month. That's probably going to be May and June, I think, now, for us at that stage, and then for probably June and July, or maybe even July and August, for the recommendation to go to the mayor and commission. And then, as you know, I mean, they can receive those recommendations for the corridor studies and, either accept them, throw them out, or modify them, or accept portions of them. The airport ones, I don't know, I don't have a feeling at all. I'm really sincerely hoping that at least the smaller of the two projects for the airport, the monument sign, will get the nod. The other one, we'll just have to see what happens. But, the discussion that I've heard for what it, you can guarantee on it is nothing, but it's such a big ticket item that perhaps, it's a possibility to be argued to have it on the next T-Splost lineup or list of projects. So that's where we are. I honestly don't know how much of a job it's going to be to make sense of all the data. I'll just let you know, but that's the update on that. Questions, comments, smiles from Robert?
Just was going to say thanks, y'all, for your support of the survey and for hosting an event, and special thanks to staff for going above and beyond on this process. We learned a lot, and we're trying to learn from this process so we can apply it to future projects and surveys and public engagement as we look to do a better job on that moving forward. So I know you've got data coming soon, and appreciate all the work you're doing with the Lexington Corridor User Group as well, Diane. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I mean, I think what they put up online was fabulous, but it was very detailed, and I think we can only hope. We'll wait and see how much they get, whatever they get, and ask us to look at. We'll do the best we can. So it's a very interesting project, though. I'm it's a lot of work, but I'm glad to be involved in it, and I'll keep updating you as we go.
And the important thing to know is a lot of this data will be used as, conversation started about the next T-Splost, which y'all will be involved in as well. So there's only $4 million here. So obviously that doesn't go very far on this list of projects that were part of the survey, but the data collected will help inform T-Splost as well and many other things.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Yeah. Okay, can we move to the next one, or anybody have a comment or question about anything? We are clipping through these quite readily. The next one on the list is the Fly AHN so-called dedicated email setup that was established for those of us on the airport authority. Angela is with us, and Angela has agreed to give an update on that, because that situation, as was described in the emails sent, has been addressed. So Angela, I'll just turn it over to you, and you can give us the update.
Well, I talked with Travis. He is the director of our IT department here, and I believe y'all all saw an email from him regarding protecting yourself and everything. And so what we decided to do is we removed all of your email addresses from our website. So those are no longer there, and they can't be grabbed by anyone from our end. So what we're going to do is I'm working with the Public Information Office to develop a contact me form to go on the website. So under the authority members, instead of your email addresses, it'll just, if they want to send anything to one of you, they'll fill out a contact me form, give you their information, and then you'll get back with them. So I'm working to get that done. Hopefully I'll have that done before the next meeting. But your email addresses have been taken off the website, so they're not published on our end anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments, questions? I think that's pretty standard, have a button saying contact us, and then it goes to a mechanism like that. So thank you for that work, Angela. And I hope, I think actually I forwarded Travis's email to you with the hints about protecting yourself. It was actually a really good list with things on it that, some of us may not have known. But thanks again, Angela. So we'll look for an update next time too, just once that's concluded.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Well, there's a big update in the last slash of the agenda, so we can move to the last section where the standing committees business and finance. Keith, if you've got any update there, then we'll go to operating with David, and then we'll end up with Mike. So Keith?
Yeah, nothing really new right now. You know, later on, I'm sure we'll have some updates later as the year goes on with some of our reporting and all. I don't know if everybody's aware, but just as an FYI, just to share with you, one thing I do each month is have a call to review the finance results with Mike and do some question and answers with him before we have our meeting here, just so we can kind of preview some things and all of that, and may kind of help build on what Mike presents and all that. But just as an FYI, kind of makes me think of what I did at my prior job every month. But but really no updates. Any questions or any suggestions from anybody regarding business finance side of things? If nothing right now, as always, I know I've kind of reached out to some of you and just asked for suggestions of things that we should be focusing on. But if any point in time, just get in touch with me if there's something that we should be looking at. But really, I mean, no update, Diane, for right now.
Okay, yeah, and later on in the coming months, Keith and I will be working on planning things and working with Mike, and then also with all of
You're
you.
muted,
So,
Diane.
you know, we know what's
I
coming.
see her. Oh, yeah.
Diane, now you're muted. I don't think you were before. I think Mike was just
Can
having
anybody
technical
hear?
difficulty.
Yeah, yeah.
You all went blank for a minute anyway. The signal's bad today.
Yeah, it
Okay.
happened here too. I don't know what's going on. I'm plugged in, so I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're back on.
It's probably a lie. No, it wasn't. I just said in the coming months, we know what's coming. And so we'll be working with you, with Mike, and, you know, the rest of the authority on the upcoming tasks. There are plenty in the pipeline, but for now, that's a good update. Thank you, Keith. So David, aside from healing that shoulder and avoiding lows, any updates?
Yeah, a few updates. One, not directly related to us, but there is a UGA Aviation Club. Their event, their spring climb was supposed to be this past weekend. It got moved due to the weather, so it's this coming weekend. It's going to be held at the airport. They've got a lot of members there. They hold regular meetings at the airport, and this is a fundraiser for them. I know that personally, I donated some to their silent auction. My business, we donated some to their silent auction, and good way for them to raise money and also get some people out to the airport. I think it's 11 to 4. Some quick hit ideas that Mike and I have discussed. There are already picnic tables outside the flight center, but they're kind of hidden behind bushes and off to the side. Just moving those out front closer to the flight line so people could use those. Encourage people to walk through the flight center. You know, obviously we've got to be cautious and cognizant of how the world is opening back up and such. So you know, we want the city on board with that, but this is all, you know, really outside or directly through the flight center. So I know I spoke to one of the customer service reps that work the desk at the airport, and she said, you know, working nights, it's not unusual to have several families coming out there just to enjoy pretty spring nights and eat some dinner. So give them a place to sit by moving some of those picnic tables, maybe get some more. Another idea, you know, we've got, like I said, the UGA Aviation Club. We've got a pretty small but fairly active EAA chapter, that's Experimental Aviation Association. We've got a Civil Air Patrol unit. Getting either on a rotating basis or grouped together, something like a second Saturday, third Sunday schedule of, you know, hot dog flying. Give away hot dogs and buns or hamburgers and a bag of chips to anybody that flies in, give them a small fuel discount, perhaps, just to encourage planes to, you know, make our airport a destination for the general aviator. Things like that really do drive the GA crowd. You know, people looking for someplace to go fly, and if they know that it's on that sort of, you know, consistent schedule, hey, that's what I'm going to do if the weather's clear on, you know, the third Sunday of the month. I'm going to go over to Athens, bring my kids, and if we get that happening on some sort of regular basis, then I think that the community will start to respond to it too. They'll see people out, they'll come out. It can be a fundraiser for these groups, so they'll love that, to staff a grill. And you know, I said to kickstart it, you know, Athens Bagel, I'd be happy to donate, you know, a case of hamburgers, or, you know, frozen hamburgers or hot dogs to kickstart that. So they could collect donations, we could get people out and drive GA traffic to the airport. So things like that, I think, are pretty quick hit, easy ideas. You know, we talk a lot of really grandiose plans like hair service development in these meetings, and Lexington entryways and all kinds of really big spending things. And I don't think it takes that. I think I think to drive, you know, public awareness that the airport is not such a bad place. It does exist. It's not such a bad place. It's fun to hang out there and see the airplanes. Aviators, you know, guys in their Cessnas and Pipers flying around, they love to show that off. So, and gals, guys and gals in their Cessnas and Pipers, love to show that off. And, you know, nothing brings me more joy than going someplace and having a little kid on the other side of the fence that wants to sit in the plane. So, you know, things like that are, you know, really easy to do. It doesn't cost much, if any, money. And I think once, you know, I know a year ago, 2 years ago, we were talking about the idea of air shows. That's big, you know, and it puts a lot on the date. It puts a lot on, you know, a lot of eggs in one basket. And I don't think we're there yet. I think we start small, gain awareness. You know, maybe we can do some of these other small projects. And I think, you know, down the road, Mike and I talked about how to increase GA traffic, self-service still marts potentially. I know we've got a renewal of a fuel contract coming up in another year or so. So, you know, those sorts of things, with, you know, whether or not we have airline service at any point. I guess I'm going to find out more about that in a moment when I stop talking. But whether or not we have that, we need the GA community to exist at Athens Events, and that's good for everybody. So.
Well, I really like all of that, because actually, I mean, it prompts me to say, you know, Mike, I want us to go back to where we were before the shutdown and everything. I mean, David, I agree with you. You know, the big air shows and things, you know, that's like the top of the heap. But I mean, Mike will tell you, you know, he and I are working also at that tiny level on the micro park, you know, a bench here, a table there, real small, to get people, you know, onto the airport property. So I really, you know, if as cautiously as we start to open back up, I want to go back to all of that thinking about events, particularly small ones, like you say, David. And on that point, I did want to ask you, David, have you ever heard from the animal shelter? Because you remember I connected you and Woody back with them about, you know, pet adoption flights. And I don't know if they ever contacted you or not. Everybody's been closed up.
Well, I do. So I do fly for the organization that I talked to them about, Pilots and Paws.
Right. Yeah.
As far as an organization, quote unquote, they're basically a website that facilitates the coordination of the rescue flights that need to take place. They don't do the coordinating themselves.
Yeah.
I've not been asked directly. I don't know if they posted anything. Usually I get, you know, the way the forum works, I'll get an email notification if something's within a couple 100 miles of Athens. So usually when those emails come through, if it you know, specifically says Athens, or, you know, one of the surrounding towns, Winterville, and, you know, Watkinsville, whatever, I'll pay particular attention and may open it. But, you know, usually I know I haven't flown any. I don't know about Woody. I know unfortunately Woody's wife just passed, and I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
how much he's been doing flying outside the house. So short answer, no.
Obviously, you know, maybe,
I haven't been in touch with them since those emails
okay.
back when. I have done a number of those flights, just not with the local
Not with
groups.
them, yeah. Well, I just think, you know, it's time, you know, for us to get back to some of those ideas. Josh, you might remember, you know, we also talked about if we had events, even smallish events at the airport, the animal shelter liked the idea of maybe planning for a pet adoption event at the airport if it could be worked out. So I really like all the things you were talking about, David, and I agree. You know, the big grandiose plans might have to wait, but it doesn't mean why we can't start on some of these more reachable little goals and, you know, modest events, and go back to some of those ideas like a pet adoption event, or, you know, connecting with other groups. So I think, you know, as we move forward, we might, you know, really plan for doing that. And Keith, you said that you'd be really interested as well in looking at, you know, ideas for events and picking up on where we left off a year ago or more, you know.
Yeah, I'd be willing to help if any kind of way. I'm thinking, you know, David, you gave a list of a lot of good stuff there. Started kind of with small things and got bigger. Some of the ones early on, I mean, I'm wondering, you mentioned about the tables and a couple of other things. And I say this with a little bit of hesitancy because I know Mike and the group there has got a lot on them right now. But some of those things, I guess, are things that doesn't require involvement of this team to say yes or no or whatever, while it may be more of an operations type of action to go ahead and do. I think, David, you said you and Mike had talked some, but it sounds like there could be some things that could be implemented sooner than later, but some of these we should have a list and at least review and start making some plans for where it makes some sense. Again, some of them could be some things. Again, David, it sounded like you could talk with Mike that we could go ahead and do at the airport without this group necessarily being involved, but I'll always help in any kind of way too. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, moving, you know, obviously it's up to Mike and Angela and so forth, but moving those picnic tables would be super easy, you know, at least bringing them, you know, 20, 30 feet up to the corners, you know, that fence right outside. You know, if you hang out there, you'll long enough, you know, go during the day, you'll see people that they'll park in our parking lot. They're frightened to walk through the building or into the building. They'll, you know, huddle up to the fence and peer through just to look at airplanes, you know, and then they'll get back in their car and go. There's no reason that anybody should be scared. You know, there's no reason why they should be scared to walk into the flight center. They should feel welcomed. You know, a couple of well-placed social media posts to that effect, or, you know, catching some folks that wouldn't mind being photoed on our Instagram or Facebook, you know, hey, such and such family, you know, enjoying a nice night out and picnic at our picnic tables. Things like that are super quick hitters, real easy to do, and you know, I think we could. I mean, that could happen this week. You know, that could happen right now. So
Yeah.
Well, I think that it, you know, it factors into what I was saying earlier about the airport being such a big green space area. You know, it's a nice place on a day like today. It's a beautiful place to be outdoors.
sure.
You know, and when the catalpa trees get their blooms, it's even more beautiful. You know, so I think we've got lots of good stuff ahead of us. Is the way I like to think about it. You know, that if we're inching towards having in-person meetings again, things are opening up in the town. It's time now. I think we can look forward to it and say, yeah, let's start again. You know, not go nuts and overdo it, but let's start. So, but no, you know, Mike, we don't want to put you under too much pressure. We know you've got so many balls you're juggling.
No, I'm excited about this. You know, it was nice to sit down with David and kind of rekindle these ideas, you know, because when I came, you know, these were the ideas I had to bring a lot of camaraderie, you know, to the airport and get people together. And then, you know, then we had to kind of put it on the shelf. But it was good to talk about it, and I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, when I was in Rome, we did it. We had hot dog Saturdays. Our EAA was a little bit bigger. Experimental Aircraft Association chapter was a little bit bigger than what they have here, so they'd have a breakfast the fourth Saturday, I think it was, of every month. And that was good. It was all you can eat pancakes. And I had a lineman that I told him, I said, go over there, on Saturday and get your pancakes. And, he did. He went over there and EAA said, don't send him back over again. He just about ate us dry. Because it's $5 all you can eat. So he didn't go back. But it's things like that that kind of bring everybody together in this aviation community. And then also not just here in the airport or people flying in, but even, the community. I mean, we don't have a lot of money to buy a lot of hot dogs, but if they're interested and they want to come, but it is mostly for the tenants, and the flying public to come in.
To that end, I think that these organizations could get that sponsored. They could come to me and say, hey, listen, I'm looking to do this, put your name all over the event. And if you buy us, a case of frozen hot dogs and hamburgers. And, I get hit up. Obviously aviation's near and dear to me. The airport is obviously, but I get hit up for so many things every single day.
You do.
That are just, unreasonable asks. This is, as long as it's supporting, some sort of nonprofit organization for some furtherance of something good, I'm going to consider it. And so, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, would you mind buying, $100 worth of hot dogs and hamburgers and buns for us so we can do this? If we put that, that's why I say, I'm happy to light that spark with UGA Aviation Club. I want them to be able to find interest in this and self-propel that into, all right, now we got to go find other sponsors. And, local business owners should be really happy about, the airport's got crew cars, with restaurants specifically these days, obviously, somebody eating a hot dog is probably not going to visit my bagel shop that day, but they may come back into town and say, hey, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the place that sponsors the hot dogs on that Sunday. And, in 2020, 2021 era of food, you get something, call Uber Eats and have it delivered at the airport when by the time you land anywhere in town. There's a lot of possibility there, and all they have to do is do a little legwork themselves and put out a accepting donations sort of bucket, as a fundraiser, and then it's staffed, and then it's just a regular event, and the community is going to follow that. The community is going to see that happening and is going to want to take part in it. And once you have that interest in the airport, that's when you can start talking about, all right, how about a food truck festival here? Or how about, some sort of mini fly-in here? Once, you got to start small with this stuff. And that's pretty grassroots and easy. And I think people would be supportive of it.
Well,
You've got the means to do that. Being a pilot and being connected with these groups, you've got the means to do that. It's like the narrow point of the wedge, is the way in. My role here is I'm going to send everybody an email in follow up to this and say, let's not drop it, let's start.
Sure. Yeah, I've reached out to the owner, not the owner, the current president of the UGA Aviation Club. I'm a member, although not active at all, of the EAA. I know a couple of the Civil Air Patrol guys. I'm happy to help with that. I can't commit to donating all of the hot dogs every month, but I'm definitely happy to spark the, help spark that fire. I think it could be something that, puts Athens on the map. I was kind of joking with Mike, when you pull up one of the electronic flight board maps, and you overlay the fuel prices with we're the target right in the center of the map, and it's not good to have the red box around Athens, because the red box indicates the high fuel prices. We want the green or yellow boxes.
Self-serve will help that.
Self-serve would help with that tremendously. So,
Well, that'd be nice to get that.
We need to become a destination for everybody, and we're not that yet. So,
And some people are afraid of towers too. We talked about that, but
right.
what are you gonna do about that? It's just, I know a lot of
Right.
people who don't like to go into
Right.
towered airports, but
Exactly. People won't want to deal with towered airports a lot. And, there's a fear that just because there's a tower there, so too are the the cost of entry increases. There's going to be fees and
yeah.
landing fees and usage fees and this, that, and the other. So we need a way to combat that. And if we get on some of these, there's an app called Social Flight, which is kind of a social network of flying events. We can get on there, get on Facebook, have these groups doing the promoting themselves. Right now I've got, this UGA Aviation Club event's got, dozens of people that say they're coming to it. There are ways to get some of this grassroots support of the airport, and just awareness that the airport exists and is a friendly place, and we can, as the weather gets better and the world opens up a little bit more, I think we'd be doing a disservice to ignore these things.
That's really interesting, Mike. If you remember the late stages in our discussion with Jesse Hool and with Carol Munnings, and we actually ended up talking to them about the fact that air service development and aviation, yes, but in addition to that, making the airport a destination. And we talked about the proposed trail, the micro park, events that we had started planning and everything. You remember, Mike? They jumped on it. In fact, they both were really interested to hear that. And Jesse actually made the comment, I made a note of it in my notes. He said, well, yeah, we need to make Athens, Ben Epps Airport, the airport everybody's talking about. So I think
that's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they like the idea too. It's not to downplay aviation or air service development, but to make it a place, because I said, with the park idea and other things, I don't want it to be an alien place. I'm not a pilot or an aviator, but I want to see it a place that people want to come, and just sit outside and watch the planes and enjoy being outside. So
I'd like to
commissioners
that end, Diane,
support us. Yeah.
To that end, I'd like to remind everybody this is one of our strategic goals, is to improve the general aviation experience. This is exactly what that's talking about. The general aviation experience isn't just those flying in; it's those exploring general aviation. TSA guidelines. If we get air service, and nobody can enjoy. Aside from behind the fence specifically, nobody's going to be enjoying commercial air service. People can enjoy general aviation, and that goes for those coming in aircraft, and those coming in off their bikes, and those coming in cars. So that's specifically a strategic goal of ours, and it's been, and obviously to no fault of our own over the past year, but it's been put in certainly on the back burner, and I think it's something that we could easily remedy.
Well, now we have the perfect opportunity to do that, and we can even couch it in official terms, since it's a strategic goal. Yeah, it's been waiting, and I am frustrated. I mean, I suppose I'm anxious to get moving on some of these. So thank you, David. That was worth its weight in gold, all of it.
You're welcome. Hopefully we'll make some moves on it.
Well, I'm going to send an email to all of you and remind you that we're not going to drop it. Let's start. The only way to start is to begin. So
yeah, David and I will we already talked about getting together periodically and brainstorming, coming up with some good ideas and making them happen. This is an easy deal as far as the hot dog thing. I mean, you start off small and, you think, okay, you put it out there, you get a lot of folks. Well, get folks, but it's not a lot. So it's manageable is what I'm trying to say. And it starts out small and it works well. And like David said, if it builds up, then you have food trucks. I know Peachtree City has Food Truck Friday, and the airport manager there, she'll put it out there and let everybody know this is the food trucks coming, and everybody knows about it, and it just makes it fun, makes it real fun.
Yeah, and just a reminder, if anybody is free on Saturday, I think the UGA Aviation Club would like to meet, as many of us as possible. Network with us if you can come out. I'm gonna try to be out there. My brother flies out of Atlanta. I think he's gonna come up and enjoy some of their events. So I think 11 to 4 on Saturday. Is when
At the hangar where the flight school is, where Falcon used to be, but there.
Very good. Thank you, David. Thanks a million. Okay. Well, why don't we turn it over to Mike and Grant for the air service development and marketing updates.
Yeah, I think I would just kick it off by saying that Mike and I've had conversations. I know Mike and Les have had conversations. We're scheduled to kind of get together to talk about it a little bit, but I know Mike's got some updates from some of the conversations he's had. So if you don't mind, I'll just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it. Well, first of all, let me just say this before I forget, is that I've talked to Doug about a week or two ago, and he is preparing a presentation for next month's meeting to just amongst us, to talk about the ASD conference, a little bit of that, and then also what he saw in his eyes, as far as the industry goes. So you can plan on that. That'll be on the agenda. When we have our agenda setting meeting, I'll bring that up. I'll just go over first about the Air Service Development Conference that I attended. Of course, it was virtual, and nobody liked the virtual. I mean, all the attendees, and most of them are recurring attendees. If you remember, for the past few years, we've met at Scottsdale. And it's just always nice, just to be in front of these folks, all the airline folks and all the other airports to get some good ideas. And everybody missed that. But with that said, it was still a good conference. It was March 20th. Started it off on Tuesday. Talked about trends in the airline industry. That was Doug, and he'll go over that next month. American Airlines had an update. Then Delta did that day. Alaska Airlines, U.S. Department of Transportation talked about the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. Talked about mostly those that are applying now. And just for your information, GDOT is applying for the aviation programs is applying for the grant, and they're looking to get about 750,000, I think, that they can use for all the airports, to help, in ASD for the state. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Amazon Air, believe it or not, also spoke, which that was pretty interesting to hear from them. Then on Wednesday, the Sun Country Airlines spoke. We had SkyWest, another thing called Know Your Market. That was interesting. Spirit Airlines, Allegiant Air, and then Hawaiian Airlines spoke. And then the last day, Thursday, United and Southwest and Breeze Airways as well, which was really interesting to hear Breeze. I like to hear the stories of the new up and coming airlines, and that was a good presentation as well. I also have the slides for, I think, most of these presentations. If any of you are interested, I can forward them to you as well. But then about a week or so after that, I had my meetings with with the 4 airlines, United, Allegiant, American, and SkyWest. 20 minutes, flat, just like it is if we're in person. It's, in person, it's like speed dating. Everybody's in this one room, and you've got tables kind of scattered, and you move from table to table, depending on your time, because there's a lot of people at this conference. And sometimes it takes a couple days to see another person. But so I did have a meeting with, first it was United. That was a good meeting. We talked a little bit in the presentation about Athens to Washington. They talked about increasing, or adding rather, some aircraft to their fleet. And then also some retiring some aircraft as well. But they're struggling a little bit right now, but they're doing well as far as trying to, bounce back. Some are adding new destinations, but they're slow to do it, but they are adding some. But United, again, we didn't expect a whole lot from United. I don't think we're on their radar right now, but at least we did bring it up, showed them a good presentation as well. And then we had Allegiant, which we were more interested in talking to Allegiant. And they are more of a destination airline, Myrtle Beach and mountains and beaches kind of thing. But they don't fly into Atlanta right now. And I know that they're looking at Georgia heavy. I know that some other airports that I've talked to, airport managers in the state, have talked to them as well. So I was really excited to get in front of them. And my contact that I talked to, he was in Phoenix, Arizona, and he was a network planner. But after our presentation, we felt kind of good. He said he looked at our numbers, and he said, this is exactly what the doctor ordered. He says this all looks really, really good. So we're kind of excited about that. We're going to follow up. We told him we'd follow up, in about a month or so. But he was very positive, and I'm not saying anything more than that, but it's just felt good. What it would be, Allegiant, they don't come every day. They're the type, like I say, destination. They'll come, in, and it might be 2, 3 tops a week, that they'll draw from these cities like us, Atlanta and the bigger cities, and draw them in, and then take them to wherever, Ocala or Fort Lauderdale or Myrtle Beach or whatever. But it would be nice to have, them in here, no doubt. Talk to SkyWest. SkyWest, as they're kind of, I call it subcontracted, but Delta subcontracts. I mean, American does, somebody else does, but they do have a few cities on their own, but they're mostly used by the bigger airlines. But still, we wanted to talk to them. We wanted to hear what they had to say, and let them know that, hey, we're interested if they're interested. And that was basically what that meeting was about. Then we get to American, and in the past years that I went to these conferences, I always talked to the network planner, and this time they hooked me up with the person who is in charge of American at Charlotte, which I felt really good about. That was the person we really needed to talk to, and also that was the same person who gave us the letter for our SCASDEP grant, and so she knew about us, of course, and she gave us the recommendation. And so it was a positive meeting as well. No commitments, but what she did say was that they're going to be looking at us along with some other airports, and they will be doing some analysis. So that was positive. We hadn't heard that in the past. And really that's what they need to do if they want to start, gearing up to look at the airports that they want to, fly into in the future. The analysis has to come. So if they're going to get started on that, that's a good that's a good thing for us, no doubt. So that's kind of, like I say, you only have 20 minutes, so you try to cram all this in 20 minutes, and especially on a WebEx or a Zoom, I think is what it was. But they were all very cordial, really nice. Glad that they talked to us. So I felt good about all of them, but especially Allegiant and American. I will mention this, Les has brought up the bus thing. There was a few things that were brought up on the bus service. United and Sun Country are doing it, but they're still kind of in the, planning. They're I guess the experimental stage. And but so far I think they're happy with it. They only go to the airports that they are flying to. So and United and Sun Country are the only ones doing it at this point in time. Oh, I do want to bring that up. That was something that was mentioned that each one of those two brought up in our conference. So that's about all I had. But any questions?
Mike, when do you think you would roughly get any kind of feedback at all, especially from Allegiant and American? Is that later this year, few months, or you just,
Allegiant, I don't know about that one. We're going to touch base with him probably in about a month or two. As far as American, she said that they'll do the analysis, probably take about 8 months, 6 to 8 months to do that, and then they'll kind of move from that point. So we're thinking, we'll give them that time, and then we'll knock on their door and see what they've got to say, what they found out. It's less.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Mike, reporting on the bus. I think as many of you know, I really think this is going to be the wave of the future for cities like ourselves, Macon. United, we stumbled on this about a year ago. Mike and I talked to the person in Bethlehem when they're doing it. But United is, everything I've read, it's been on CNBC, it's been all over the press. They're actually conducting a pretty rigid experiment flying to, they're going to Fort Collins, and they're also going to Breckenridge out of Denver. Fort Collins is the exact replica of Athens. It's about 90 miles. I went online trying to book the fare, and when you book it, it shows up like you were booking an airplane from Denver. You get another flight, it was 9,000 something. Incrementally, it was only $40 more, and you would fly from Atlanta, get off the plane in Denver, walk to another gate, and end up in Fort Collins. Breckenridge, Mike, they actually don't even have an airport to the best of my knowledge. So they're dropping the people off right on Main Street, which is, I think the issue here is that United would not be a good candidate for the bus. There's a company that they both partnered with, Sun Country and United. It's called Landline. You may want to check them out. They run these gorgeous buses with Wi-Fi, 2 seats on one side, one on the other. And, if we could ever get something like that, I think it would have to be with Delta, SkyWest. But I think the good news is that people are really starting to try this out. I think it's going to be a way for the big airlines to serve places like Athens, Columbus, Macon at a minimal cost, and be able to connect most of us to the international and national air network at very minimal expense. The one thing in the articles I've read too is that United is trying to work on the other end, going from Fort Collins, let's say, to Atlanta. Right now, you'd actually have to get off and go back through security. But they're actually working with this company, Landline, to see if they can figure out a way to do that. So I think it's something we really want to stay on top of, and something I think is we're gonna see be the wave of the future. So just one person's opinion. One other thing, Mike, I'd be curious, and we'll hear it next month. Did they talk about business travel? Because just about everyone I've talked to who used to travel a lot, people who work for companies, they pretty much say they don't ever see it coming back, maybe 50% max. And that's the bread and butter of the airlines. So that's frightening.
Yeah, they do see it coming back. Right now, most all of them are focusing on destinations.
Leisure.
Leisure, destination and leisure. They do see it, but they're focusing more on that. they're gearing up for that. Like I say, they're buying more equipment, more aircraft. I think it was who was it, American or one of them buying more 737 Maxes. I think it was United was buying 20 more aircraft, but retiring
United.
some. Yeah, and retiring some. But and then who was it? I think it was gosh, I think it was American going to Austin, and they were really focusing on
Yes.
that as well
Mhm.
right now. So they they, and it was pleasant. I was pleasantly surprised to see this, that it wasn't all doom and gloom. Sure, their their revenues are down and all, but to hear that things are coming back again, but they're starting slow. And like I say, the leisure first, and then the business, but they're taking it smart. They really are.
So, Mike, from what you said, you're thinking year end is the realistic time frame to be looking at
For what?
for really getting feedback from them, or
Yeah,
really
8 months
getting it.
probably for American, and probably 2-3 months for Allegiant, perhaps.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd like to know sooner than later on Allegiant, because he kind of left us with that positive news, but no timeline. So I don't want to wait too long for that.
Interesting.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, Mike, Allegiant flies 757s, if I remember.
I think they do.
And so would we be able to handle that? I mean,
Yeah,
the
we
wingspan
could.
is the issue. We can? Okay.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. We get 737 800s in here that wingspan is big. It's big. Of course, you got 717s. That's not quite as big, and then
That's not bad.
and then but the 737 800 is big. It's like then you go to the max, so it's pretty large. And then the global, they got a new global 7500 out there that comes in, and that thing's amazing to see as well. You need to check that out if you Google it. I think the wingspan is like 104. I'll say 104 feet, and its length is 111. So I mean, that thing's amazing to see as well.
So there's hope.
Yeah, there's hope. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got a great runway. That definitely handles it. Now with the taxiway project, that'll handle it too. So we need to get that taxiway done. What we need to do, and then focus on our ramp, kind of in front of the terminals. We'll be good then.
Very good. That's a good update, I think. It's not no hope at all,
Yeah. I was happy. I'm gonna we have an ASD committee, and it's been a while since I've communicated with them, but I will be communicating with them and kind of giving them this update as well. I've had one or two of them ask, how things are going. So, it's time to kind of reach out to them. So I'm going to do that.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Those were some good updates, I think. A good meeting. So, unless there's any other business or comment, can I have a motion to end the meeting, please? Keith? Okay. Second? Grant? Okay. I'm going to send a follow-up email about David's ideas, or, hoping to light the spark, like you said, David. Time. So that's good. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of the input and the good positive updates. And I guess we'll conclude the meeting. What is this? 4:34. Bet you out early.
Well, thank you, everybody. It was good talking and seeing you.
Yeah, good to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Bye. Good.